Hello there, good morning. It's Talk TV, live from the Talk Radio studio. I'm Darryl Morris. Hope you're okay this morning as we tick into the early hours of Sunday. Every Sunday around this time, we do the International News Hour and check in with some of our voices around the world in various different parts of the globe. And Australia is such a fascinating place at the moment. We've been taking stock of the results of an election that turned quite a few things on their head in Australia a couple of weeks back. That government is now settling in, and this weekend in particular is an interesting time to talk to Australia about that new government, led as it is now by an Australian Prime Minister who is, I think it's not unfair to say, a Republican, somebody who's expressed concern about the monarchy and the desire perhaps to see Australia become a republic. They've also now appointed a minister for the republic as well. Celebrations being marked in Australia this weekend, but a change in tone perhaps to the royal family. Let's speak to Rachel Brunsden, who is a radio presenter based in Australia and joins us tonight. Rachel, hello there.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really, really well. Listen, I've got Melbourne written down in front of me, and I think we had this problem last time, didn't we, that I got the wrong part of Australia that you're in.
We last time had Brisbane, which is way north of me, so Melbourne is correct.
Oh, Melbourne's right. Okay, good. Excellent. I should have trusted Gabriella, the producer, a little bit more, who's written that down. Monarchy, Rachel, such a fascinating subject in Australia at the moment on this Jubilee weekend. Let's just start with the celebrations and the events to mark this weekend. What's happened?
Prime Minister Albanese lit a beacon, which was very nice of him to do in Canberra, and Canberra's our capital. We also renamed an island after her. Now, let me clarify. It's a man-made island in a man-made lake, but still, it's a nice gesture. We changed it from Aspen Island to Queen Elizabeth II Island. And we also lit up all our monuments, so Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, monuments around Canberra. Every state in Australia lit up monuments in the royal purple, which I thought was a nice gesture also. And, I mean, we have a great deal of respect for the Queen. She's truly an outstanding monarch, and we really love her here. She's revered, and we very much enjoy the royal family. I think this shift that you're feeling is perhaps it's a minority shift. I don't think it's going to get much in the way of traction while she's still alive. Perhaps once she passes, maybe that discussion will happen again. We had a referendum about this a few years ago. Did we want to become a republic? And there was a resounding no. Yes, Albanese is part of that Republican movement, and there is a minister now who is also a part of that Republican movement. But our previous Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, spearheaded the Republican movement, and still we haven't been able to get any traction on it. Well, the Republicans haven't been able to get any traction on it. So I really think while she's still a living monarch, that won't be a change here.
Okay. There is, the unfortunate reality of life is that there is a chance that the makeup of the royal family will change in the not-too-distant future. The Queen is 96 years old. We'd be lying to ourselves if we were to say that she was going to be around forever. It may, in fact, even fall within the time that this government finds itself in power. Does that change things?
I don't think so. I really don't think it. I think it would be on the nose for us to do it. I mean, I think it will eventually happen, but I don't think. I think it's on the nose to do it while she's, as I said, while she's still living, but also a respectful amount of time after she passes. I think we have to just sit in a space and wait for that time to present itself, and it will present itself. There's just no way around it. We will become a republic at some point, but I don't think you'll see it within the next 10 years.
Oh, really? So you do think that is just a given, but it's not on the horizon in the immediate term?
I really do, and I think you're going to find too that with the Queen's generation and also the generation that belongs to Prince Charles, they are very much monarchists in that demographic. So when you're moving towards younger people, don't really understand the significance of the royals, and they haven't had a great deal of impact. We've got them; they're more like figureheads to us, and honestly, we sort of operate ourselves, and it really is a figurehead idea. But to belong to the Commonwealth is a very important part of our foreign policy. It's a very important part of our economic situation. It's better for us to remain where we are, given the current climate of the world right now. So we're talking energy prices, climate. It's better if we have allies, and being part of the Commonwealth is really important to stabilising us in that space.
That's very interesting, isn't it? That if the counter to the Republican argument is consistency is really important at the moment, and international relations are really important at the moment. Being part of something that is bigger than Australia is really important at the moment, which is sort of the antithesis of the debate that we were having in 2016 around Brexit. Be really interesting to see how that kind of plays out politically. Just finally on that point, because there's a couple of other bits we want to talk about as well, aren't there, Rachel? But just finally on that point, the Minister for the Republic, I think is that what's the title of a new government minister who's tasked with doing what exactly?
Well, I think it's an under the table kind of a title. I don't think it's not listed in his cabinet postings. I think it's one of those. It's a committee that's always been in existence and rumbling around. Even when the referendum failed, we had this sort of, group of people who would get together and, I don't know, drink beers and talk about what might be. But I really don't think it's a serious ministerial job. I don't think there's a nameplate. I don't think it's on a card anywhere. But there's a very large groundswell of people who want a republic, and unfortunately for them, they don't currently hold a majority, and it's not a decision a Prime Minister can make outright by himself. It has to be a referendum of the people, and we have to decide.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting. More broadly then, Rachel, the Prime Minister's been putting his cabinet together. Last time we spoke was the weekend of the election, and the results actually were still coming in. In fact, they were still coming in until relatively recently. So convoluted and complex can these kind of counting situations be. But it's now done and dusted. He does have a majority, and he's been putting his government together. What does it look like?
Actually looks really good. We've got a record number of women in the ministry for the first time, and the fact that we have to point this out is kind of sad and tired, but we will, because it is a record. We've got 19 members who are female in the ministry, and that's almost a 50-50 split. It's 42 members in that cabinet ministry, so yay women. We've also got our first Indigenous female looking after Indigenous affairs, which seems perfectly reasonable to me, because she's Indigenous and she's also a female. We've also got our first Muslim female, and she swore on, it was really nice actually, she took her oath on a pink bound copy of the Quran, which I thought was a really nice touch. So it was a big day. It's very important. Anthony Albanese is a really progressive Prime Minister. He's very much, he's all about, let's make it all equal for everybody, and let's bring in as many different voices and as many different tones as we possibly can. He's tasked himself with changing the way politics looks. It's a big task, but he's on the right track. It's still a bit of a boys' club, but that's politics. It's always going to be a bit of a boys' club. I think more men are attracted to politics, but more women are getting votes. And we saw that with the independents. Most of the women in the independent parties, the Teal Party, as we called it, they're women. So people are warming to them. And apparently there's a study, I thought this was hilarious. There's a study, the more women you have in Parliament, the longer people's life expectancy is, because they're more likely to vote in favour of education, healthcare, social services, things like that. And I thought, who does this study? Who is that? I want to talk to them.
I think there's a handful of Scandinavian countries that are now run by female leaders, aren't there?
Yeah.
And there's a big sort of thing there, isn't there, about actually the all right, chaps, you've had rather a long time at the wheel. Now it's time for us to take charge and see what we can do with it. What has changed then? So it's all good and well as talking about the sort of results of the election and the makeup of the cabinet and all that sort of stuff. Early days for the government, but any sort of policy signs, things that have changed and happened already?
I think there's going to be a massive change to our climate policies. The other guys, the opposition now, they were not real hot on climate change, and certainly weren't as active as they could have been. They're very conservative, lean towards the right, so there's a lot of climate deniers in there. So I think that's going to change really rapidly. We've also had to take a pretty brisk and we're very swift trip all around the Pacific Island region, which is just north of us. So Indonesia, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, to try and dampen down this chatter that's going on with China right now about them wanting to broker deals about security, cybersecurity, maritime rights. And there's a whole sneaky thing going on with China right now, which is making everybody a little bit nervous. But I think you're going to see a lot of foreign policy change, a lot. We had the Quad meet, I think it was the day after Prime Minister Albanese was sworn in, and there was big rumblings about satellites, the use of satellites against Chinese dark ships that were illegally fishing off waters that belong to Japan, India, us, Indonesia, everywhere. So there's a lot going on, and I think this government's up to the task. I think our foreign minister is a lady by the name of Penny Wong. She's been a senator for a very long time. She's a career politician. She knows her stuff. She really is very good with foreign policy, and she's got that portfolio now. So I think we're in very good hands with her. She's very diplomatic. She's truly a very intelligent woman, and I think we can't really put a foot wrong with her. She's very good at her job.
And you mentioned China. The China issue does remain a big issue, doesn't it, in Australia? Very much high on the in tray of the current government. And China's Foreign Affairs Minister Wang Yi's been on a tour across some Pacific Islands countries, hasn't he, recently, trying to shore up a trade and security deal with a bunch of countries. What's Australia's take in that role in it? Where do we find Australia's relationship with China this weekend?
Well, as we were sort of moving around the islands, Penny Wong was right behind him, doing as much damage control and counter brokering as she possibly could. What they're offering in terms of security, training police, they basically want to build bases there, and they want a way in to do it. What they're offering, what they want in return is very shady and sketchy. They want access to all their cybersecurity on these islands. They want access to land. They obviously want access to the ocean because the ocean has the fish that they're looking for to feed their people. But they want too much in return. And Fiji has apparently said, no, we're not going to do that. Samoa have said maybe. But everybody else is sort of balking and saying, no, I don't think this is a great idea. And, of course, because we just had the Quad, they've got the voice of Uncle Joe Biden sitting over the top going, don't do it, don't sign any agreements. It would be very, very bad. And it would be very, very bad. It would give them a stronghold where we don't need them to have one. They've got plenty of stuff going on. These dark ships are hilarious. The satellites that we plan to use to watch, and we also are offering access to, and when I say we, I mean the Quad, offering access to anybody on the planet who wants that information and that satellite reconnaissance from mostly from the United States, I'm gathering, but if they want access to it, they can have it. We'll carte blanche give it to them. And China has come back and said, you can't spy on people, that's terrible. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you spy on everybody every day. Your own citizens, you spy on them, okay, well, we won't spy then if it's terrible. We just won't do it. Not. But I really think we need to sort of put our foot down and say we're not going to be bullied by you.
Really interesting. And it's going to be such a big part of the new government's life, isn't it, really? And their sort of approach to foreign policy on that is going to be really significant, and they will be judged on it, no doubt. And we'll watch how it plays out for sure. Rachel, for now, thank you. Really appreciate. Thank you. Look after yourself. I really appreciate your time tonight. Rachel Brunsden, who is with us on Talk TV from Australia. We'll be back there as that new government settles in. Very interesting. I think my sort of like my kind of assumption that the election of what could be probably be described as a Republican government in Australia, a prime minister who has himself committed himself to the Republican cause, and the idea that a government minister has taken on a bit more responsibility may totally change the game over there. Put into check a bit by Rachel who says that actually, for as much as all the headlines seem to be about that, the reality is that there is still a sentiment on the ground in Australia in favour of the monarchy and its institution and its role in Australia, although caveating that with the fact that she thinks that will very much change, that a decade from now we'll be having a very different conversation. Probably still in the middle of the night, you and me, together, in 10 years from now.